Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm pleased to have with me over here Dominic, CEO of Fillout. Fillout is a phenomenal online form builder, which Dominic will share more about. I can just say personally, I'm blown away by the capabilities from the moment I've seen Fillout, and I'm very excited to see this integration coming to light. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Dominic and have him give us a little background about himself and Fillout as a company and share a little bit more on the new possibilities, a whole world of possibilities that has just opened up with this new integration. And without further ado, Dominic, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, really excited to be here. I think we first started hearing about SmartSuite maybe 6 months ago from some of our users. And then since then, it's been a flood of requests and people asking us to integrate with SmartSuite. So really excited that we've got this integration up and running and excited to show you some of the possibilities today. So yeah, I'm Dominic. I'm one of the co-founders of Fillout. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. And I promise we will jump into some demos very quickly, but just have 1 or 2 slides here to get us started. As Avi mentioned, Fillout is a powerful form builder, and it's specifically made for tools like SmartSuite that have this relational capabilities where it's not a spreadsheet, it's actually something that allows you to do a whole lot more and basically build your own database. And we're going to be jumping into everything you can do in Fillout, everything from like multi-page forms, how you can build a form to update records inside of your SmartSuite solutions, validation logic, and a whole lot more in this webinar. Just to zoom out for a moment, I want to talk a little bit about why would you want to use Fillout and SmartSuite in the first place? So I'm sure many of you have filled out a Google form or something like that before, and a Google form probably saving the information that you type into it into a spreadsheet. And this works okay sometimes, but if you're building a business or any sort of more operationally heavy use case, you're quickly going to run into the limitations of doing this type of approach, which I'm sure many of you have seen before. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to pretend that I'm running an e-commerce store, and I'm going to show how I've set things up in SmartSuite and what Fillout can do to help you get information into your SmartSuite solution and apps. So let's go ahead and look at how I've set it up. Again, let's pretend that I'm an e-commerce retailer and I work with a number of different vendors, right? And so each of these vendors is providing me products, which I'm going to be selling in my store. And as my store grows, I'm going to have more and more vendors. Each of these vendors is going to have more and more SKUs. And so I need a really good way to manage all of this as my store grows. And SmartSuite is basically the perfect solution for that, right? Because I have over here, I can keep track of all my vendors. But most importantly, I have all the products that each of these vendors have, and they're tied to the actual vendor themselves. So I have this other app over here in SmartSuite. These are the different products that I'm selling in my store. Each of these is tied to a vendor. And it just allows me to structure everything really nicely, make sure I'm collecting all the information I need, build reports and analytics and all of that on top of this information. That's an intro to this SmartSuite solution. Now the question is, how can we use Fillout to actually get information into this SmartSuite solution in the first place? So the first form that I want to walk through, we're just going to look at the end product first, and then afterwards, I'll jump into how you actually build this in Fillout in the first place. The first one is a vendor onboarding form. Every time I bring on a new vendor, there's a bunch of information that I'm going to want to collect from them, including all of the products that they want to sell inside of my store. So let's take a look at this use case. And here we go. So this is a form that I built pretty quickly. It's meant to walk through a new vendor that's coming onto my store. So I have an introduction page, just giving a little bit of context about my store. And you can see forms in Fillout can have multiple pages. So right now, if you're collecting a lot of information, you likely don't want to overwhelm people all at once with all the questions on one particular page. And here I'm asking a few fields. You can notice we have 2-dimensional layouts, so you can structure the form however you want to structure it. You can have required fields. So let's pretend here that I'm onboarding as a new vendor. I'll put some information in here. There's built-in validation for all of these different fields. So if I type in an invalid email here, and you can also have conditional logic. If I say that I do have a website, then we'll ask this question to fill on your website. Put just a dummy website here. And now head to the next page. So this is where things start to get a bit more interesting. So as I mentioned before, right now we're creating a new vendor inside of this SmartSuite app. But each of these vendors is going to want to have a number of different products over here that they want to upload. And when I press this button in Fillout, it's going to open a subform. So this is like a child form, which is going to allow me to create a number of different products and automatically tie those to the vendor. So let's add like a belt. All of these options over here are automatically pulled in from SmartSuite. So that's another big advantage of using Fillout is it just integrates really closely with SmartSuite and make sure that if you're updating your schema inside of one of your SmartSuite apps, these options will get pulled in automatically and you don't have to manage two different sources of truth for those options. So I'll just pick some options here, put in a price, choose a style, and then add the product. And you'll notice now it's automatically added here. I could add multiple different products. So I'm creating multiple different records inside of my SmartSuite solution, and they're automatically tied to this record that I'm creating. And so now I'll go to the next page just to finish this up. You can also show read-only information inside of your form. So let's say you want people to watch a video or something like that as they're onboarding onto your store. And then I'm going to go ahead and submit this form over here. So let's go ahead back to SmartSuite and take a look at what actually happened under the hood. Looking at the vendors app, you can see that this is that record that I just created. So it's automatically added to SmartSuite. And you can see we've also added this belt product. And if we go to the products app over here, this is all that information that I typed in there, looking good. So, that's kind of form building 101 in Fillout. Let's take a look at what else is possible. The next step basically is we've got information inside of our SmartSuite solution. How can we allow people outside of SmartSuite to update information when they need to? Taking the same example again, let's say that I want to allow the different vendors that are selling products at my store to update products. Maybe they are changing the price, maybe they're changing the name of the product, they want to change the category, something like that. It'd be really manual for them to have to email me and we have to do that every time. What I can do instead is I can give them a unique link to a form, which will allow them to update the record. So let's say that we want to update this winter coat product over here. I've created a button in SmartSuite that links out to a unique form for this particular record. And when I open that up, it's going to get automatically pre-filled with all the information from that record. So you don't have to pass in, if you've used kind of other workarounds, you might have needed to pass in all the different information inside of the URL. With Fillout, you don't have to, you just pass in the ID of the record that you want to update. Everything gets pulled in automatically. And now I can say, let's say I want to change the price to $4.99. And I want to add some new colors here that we're offering for this product. And then I just press update form. And that's it. Now, when we go back over here, you can see the price has been changed to $4.99. And we've also added the new colors over here. And yeah, that's an update form in Fillout. And, oh, Avi, were you going to say something?
No, I just want to chime in here. Super cool. We're already getting some questions in here. So I just want to reiterate, feel free to drop questions in the chat. But David is asking, why not just use SmartSuite forms? Do you want to unpack that?
Yeah, for sure. SmartSuite as core is not focused on being a form builder, right? And they do have a form solution, which is really good if you want to just get some basic information into your SmartSuite solution. At Fillout, forms is like all we think about, basically. And there's a whole bunch of things which I'll show later that you can't do with pretty much any other form solution out there. So really, it depends on your use case. If you have a more complex data intake flow where you want to have multiple different pages, you want to show information. I don't know if you noticed in that form, I was using answer piping to basically display information inside of the form on different pages that you'd entered in previously. Maybe you want to have complex validation logic, or you want to build an update form like this. So I'd say a lot of the kind of more advanced use cases is when you might want to look for an external form solution for that.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Yeah. I'll just add to that. Hang in there. I think Dominic has some really cool stuff to show us. And as a representative of SmartSuite, Fillout can do a ton more than what SmartSuite forms can do, which is why we're excited about this integration. And that's what we're here to show you today. So hang in there, and I assure you, you'll be blown away.
Cool. Yeah. Any other questions so far? I
No,
can't see.
I think we're good. I'll call out any other questions as they come in.
Sounds good. And yeah, just to spend a second on data security. Obviously, when you're collecting information from your customers, your partners, security is really important. There's a bunch of features in Fillout that can help with this. So you can make a form that requires people to log in. Let's say you don't want anybody to be able to fill out your form. You want only certain people who match an email address that's inside one of your SmartSuite apps. That's something that we'll show how to do. Then there's all the normal security features like single sign-on, GDPR compliance. You can add CAPTCHA to your forms. If you're getting a lot of spam submissions, that can be a good way to prevent bots from submitting your forms. And then finally, just granular controls over who can see the data that's being collected in Fillout and who can actually edit the forms that you're making. But yeah, so that's a high level of kind of what are some of the possibilities inside of Fillout plus SmartSuite. And next up, I want to show the process of building the form. And as part of that, I'll show a few other features that are unique to Fillout plus SmartSuite. So let's
Amazing. So as you're going into the product, I just want to call out. So Brad is asking, what about HIPAA compliance?
Yeah, it's a good question. On the Fillout side, we are not yet HIPAA compliant. That's something that's on our medium-term roadmap for later this year. That said, we do offer self-hosting. So that's something I can talk about more offline, but basically you can self-host part of Fillout so that the data goes directly to your own private cloud, whether using Azure, AWS, or any of those solutions. But we do not yet have a HIPAA certification.
Okay, amazing. And then it looks like people are asking for a general comparison to Jotform, but I think as you go through the demo, it will be obvious.
Yeah, sounds good. So yeah, let's go ahead and make a form. And one of the unique parts of that Fillout is just we've built like a very native integration with SmartSuite essentially. So I'll show how that works. So here you can choose a theme. You can customize pretty much any part of the form, make it match your brand. Here's the bit where you connect to SmartSuite. So this is what's a little different to other form solutions out there that you might be familiar with. With Fillout, you actually connect to SmartSuite first, as opposed to doing it at the end. And that allows us to just have a much more native solution where options are pulled into dropdowns automatically. And it's just much harder to get to a state where your integration is not going to work. We've seen a lot of people run into problems if you use another approach. And so that's something I'll show here. And in this case, I'm going to connect to that same solution, and I'll connect also to the vendors app. So let's jump in. So this is the form editor now in Fillout. The first thing you'll notice here on the left-hand side is Fillout knows all about the different fields that you have within your app. And so these are all corresponding directly to this vendor's app that I have over here. So you can see like name, image, contact name, website, etc. These are all listed over here. And when I pull these in, that's automatically connected. So I could publish this form right now and it would automatically create a new record inside of SmartSuite. We also have these linked records. So this is something that like very few form solutions support, which is that kind of native integration with supporting multiple different apps that are connected to each other. And so here you can see when I press add, I can choose from existing products that are in another app that's linked to this vendor solution. Then one thing I will show as well is basically whenever you click any of these questions in the middle of the page, on the right-hand side, you get a number of different settings that you can fiddle around with depending on your use case. And this is everything from kind of simple stuff to if you want to add some sort of caption, you get a live preview of everything in the middle of the screen over here, all the way to much more advanced features. So I'll jump into one of the more advanced features right now. So right now, let's do this perhaps with a purchase order. So I'm creating a form here. I want people to be able to choose from certain purchase orders. And by default, they can choose from all of the purchase orders which are available in my SmartSuite app. But let's say that we actually want to filter down the options that they can choose from over here to only certain ones based on the status. So we only want to show the ones that are status paid or status processing. The way you can do that is, let's add a multiple choice question here, for instance. And let's say, which purchase orders, or what is the status of the purchase order. And then we'll just make this option say processed. And then this one say paid. And then we'll go to the linked record, and on the right-hand side, these are all the different settings. So we'll go to the advanced section, and we can add a filter to filter down the options that are available here. I'll press add filter. You can basically define a condition. So in this case, we're going to filter on the status, and we're going to filter when that status is equal to this question that we added over here in the form. So what is status of the purchase order? And then press done here. And then now when I press paid and open up these purchase orders over here, it's only going to show me the purchase orders that are paid, which is going to stop people from accidentally choosing a purchase order, which doesn't make sense with the input that they're providing in the form. And this is just one example. You could also like hard code paid if you really only want them to choose the purchase orders that are unpaid, for example. You can do that in the condition. So there's a lot of different possibilities that you can do with filters. The other thing, which I showed a little bit in the first demo, is you can allow people to create new records within the purchase order space. So if you enable this, now they'll have a button which basically opens up another form which allows you to create records in that SmartSuite app. And yeah, so that's the linked record question type over here. There's, I think, 40 plus different question types. If you're running surveys, there's a bunch of questions that can help with that. And you can store the results of the surveys directly in SmartSuite. So you have like an opinion scale, you can have a slider, there's all sorts of like date inputs and a whole bunch more over here.
That's awesome. I'm just going to throw at you a few questions that are coming in here that are relevant. So Jeff is asking, if I change a column name in SmartSuite, does it automatically update and fill out without breaking?
Yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, it does update automatically. So that's one of the benefits as well of Fillout, which is if let's say you change the name of the column or anything like that, it'll still stay connected because it's tied to the actual like ID of the column. Obviously, if you delete the field entirely, then it will not be connected anymore. But we do a pretty good job in Fillout of showing you on the results page when you actually submit the form that there are a few fields that are no longer existing in SmartSuite. So that's something that we do out of the box.
That's super cool. So essentially, if you have a live Fillout form that's published and out there, and you make a change in SmartSuite to the field name, that is still represented on a live field form in Fillout.
Exactly, yeah. And that applies also to options as well, right? So before in the products, I was showing how we had a form that allowed you to choose from different colors. If I was to come in here and add a new color choice, let's say I add like purple or something like that, option will then show up in the drop down of that form. So you don't have to manage
Wow.
two different places.
Super useful. Okay, amazing. Next question is coming in from Catherine. Catherine is asking, is it possible to make a form where the answers have a score and a total of those answers can be given? If each answer has a number from 1 to 4, is it possible to calculate the total?
Yeah, great question. So the best way to do that in Fillout is we have a feature called calculations, which this is good timing. I'll jump into here. The first, I guess, before I answer that question, I'll introduce this concept here. So right now we have one page in our form in Fillout. If you press add page on the bottom over here, you can add different pages to your form. So I could add another form page. I could collect a payment via Stripe. I could prompt people to schedule with Calendly. I could ask them to log in. So there's a bunch of different page types that you can add here. In this case, I'll just add another form page. So we'll just call this like page 2. And you can customize this. Let's say this is where we want to ask for the email and the phone number. And if you press on this logic button over here, this is where you can customize the order of the pages that the people will see. And you can do all sorts of things like, let's say there's a page that only applies to certain people. You can skip over that page entirely by just setting up some kind of conditional logic over here. And so they won't even see the second page. They'll go straight to the ending page. But to answer your question, what you'd want to do in Fillout is use this feature called calculations. And calculations is exactly for what you said. It's for computing prices, scores. You can think of it as like a live formula that you create, which can take in all the inputs that are within the form and will spit out either like a number or some sort of text, which you can then use within the form. And one example might be like price. price would be a number. And then when I create the calculation, let's say the price starts at 0, I can add new rules in here and essentially say that, when a certain condition is met inside of Fillout. So let's say when somebody selects that they want to buy a scarf, then I want to add $10 to the price. And so you could create however many rules you want here, and these rules will be dynamically calculated. And then you can use this price within the form itself to either show the price, or you could pipe in the price to like our Stripe widget. So you could create a dynamic form that then charges people whatever the amount is that's relevant for the selections they've made within the form.
Awesome. Super cool. And we have a question here from Akira saying, so SmartSuite does not have an external service portal functionality, and we need to use like a Fillout front-end tool. Is this correct? I think Fillout is more of an advanced, I'll just take this question and answer quickly. That Fillout is a very advanced form builder tool, as you can see, that depending on what your customers need to do, if essentially all they need to do is update records, create new records, essentially submit new information to you, then yes, Fillout can potentially act as your front-end portal. It even has a login screen. And I think Fillout is centered around very advanced form functionality that you probably wouldn't see from any other form provider out there, whether it's built into the product or a standalone form solution. I think Fillout is probably the most excelling form solution. And then we have another question here I'll call out. So Brad is asking, can you show the signature feature in more detail?
Yes, I can. So one caveat I will give with the signature and with file uploads in general is that we haven't yet released support for it with SmartSuite, but the good news is it's in the works. We're working with the SmartSuite team to get that out. It should be out within the next 7 to 10 days. But I can show you how it will work. So basically, we have the signature question type over here, which you can drag onto your form. You can put it anywhere within your form. Then the person is prompted to basically add their signature with their keypad. And then once they've added the signature, this will get uploaded to a file field type in SmartSuite. So you'll be able to actually view all the signatures within SmartSuite.
So does it upload as like a image, or is it, okay.
It uploads as an image, yeah.
Very cool. Okay, next question over here. And Dominic, if you want to continue, you can just tell me too many questions and we can come back to these questions at the end. But I just want to call out the questions as they come in.
Yeah.
And we have another question coming in over here. We plan to use integration to collect sensitive data for filing tax returns from our clients. What level of your security features would I typically use for this? Self-hosting, etc.
Yeah, so it's hard to give general advice on that, but I can walk you through the different options. So at least on the Fillout, I can speak on the Fillout side. One option is our kind of regular cloud hosted solution, which is if you go to fillout.com/SmartSuite and sign up, that's what you'll be using. We offer also a single tenant solution, which is one step up from there, which means that the data that's captured within Fillout is stored on a single tenant. So you're not sharing that database with any other customers. And then the information from there will then go directly to your SmartSuite account. And then the next level up from that is basically self-hosting. Typically, we only recommend self-hosting if it's an absolute requirement, just because it's a bit more costly, and also there's more setup involved with that since you have to manage the server yourself through AWS or Azure.
Okay, amazing. Brian is asking, do you offer or have plans for a save and continue function for much longer / multi-page forms?
Yeah, great question. The answer is mostly yes, that we do offer it now, but we have a few features that we're also working on related to that. So I can show you how that works currently. So if I publish this form and then I open it up over here, let's say I type in Dominic and I go to the next page here. And then now let's say I were to close this form and then come back to it later. What happens is you get this pop-up that shows up that says you have a submission in progress. Do you want to continue or start over? If you press continue, it starts off right where you left off. So if I go back here, you can see that the inputs that I entered are already there. So this allows you to continue where you left off. The one caveat I'll give is this is tied to the browser. So if you were to go to a different computer and continue the form submission from there, you wouldn't be able to continue your existing submission. But that is something that we have in the works.
Very cool. Okay, we have a ton more questions that came in, but I do want to make sure you're able to get through everything you have planned for us. So let's take a quick pause on questions, let you get through the entire presentation and demo, and let me know once you're done. We'll come back. We have quite a number of questions, and we will do our best to get to all of them, even if we have to go a little bit over time.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll just show a few quick things and then we can jump into questions. I think I showed the form editor already. You can choose the different types, make the form over here. What happens when you're actually ready to share the form? I already published this form. The first step is to publish it. Then you can either send a link to the format directly. We have a custom domain feature, which means that if you want to host the forms at forms.yourcompany.com, you can do that with the custom domain feature. So it won't say fill out over here. You can then either send the link out directly, or you can embed the form on your website. So you can do a standard embed, full screen embed. You can have it come up as a pop-up or the form slide from the right or the left with the slider embed. We also have there's a bunch of different settings that you can customize around the forms. If you want to change the appearance to have kind of an image that's relevant to your brand over here, you can do so there. The next step is the results page. So once you actually submit the form, so let me finish submitting this one here. And then now we'll go back to the results page. This is useful. Majority of the time you'll want to have the data in SmartSuite, but the one time that this can be useful here is if you want to collect partial submissions, which means somebody's halfway through filling out the form and you want to be able to see what place they got to in the form and what they filled out. That's what you can use this results page for over here. And then this information is obviously synced in SmartSuite, so you can view it there too. The next piece that I want to show is just the settings. And so here, there's a bunch of different settings that you can configure around your form. So maybe you want to send an automatic email containing the content of some content of your form, so you can fully customize the email that gets sent out to the person that submitted the form. You can use URL parameters, which basically is just a way of passing information into the form. Let's say somebody's email or their name before they've started the form. That's where you can use URL parameters and then pre-fill certain fields based on that. There's a bunch of settings around form behavior. We have features around making quizzes. So if you want to make a lead quiz or just a quiz to test somebody's knowledge, you can do so as well using Fillout. And then you can also control the access of the form. If you want it to expire by a certain date or just disable entirely, you can do that as well. Let me just make sure I haven't missed anything. Themes, I touched on briefly, but there's a bunch of pre-built themes that you can choose from here, but you can also just create your own theme. And there's a pretty high level of customization that you can do here. So you can change all the colors. You can upload a font. You can even upload a custom font if you have a specific font that you use at your company. You can add your logo, change the form position. Let's say I want to display it to the left or something like that. You can like reposition images so that they show up properly. You can change the question size and a whole bunch of different settings over here. And then you can reuse these themes across all your different forms if you want to maintain consistency across all of them. Then multi-page forms we already showed. So you can set up scheduling forms, login forms. You can set up branching between those different pages. So that we've covered already. And then there's some advanced features. So I think we've talked about some of these already, like creating new linked records, filtering linked records, multi-page forms, partial submissions. I won't cover any of this again. And yeah, that's super high level. I'm sure there's some more features that we'll jump into with the questions, but the good news is the integration is live. So you can try it out at fillout.com/SmartSuite, connect your SmartSuite solution, and then start building from there.
Okay, amazing. That is awesome. Well, thank you so much for that presentation. Who's excited here for Fillout? Let me hear in the chat. This is definitely some awesome features that haven't been possible before with forms connected to Smart. So we're very excited about that. And I think it's evident from the comments and questions coming in that people are excited to get their hands on it. And let's just run through quickly the different questions that we have here and do our best to answer all of them. Jeff is asking, does the signature field track IP addresses, etc., like DocuSign example. Could we use this instead of DocuSign for legally valid signatures?
Good question. Not yet, but that is also on our roadmap. So that's something that we'll be focusing on in the next, I'd say, 2 to 3 months.
Amazing. Okay, Catherine has a follow-up question. Follow-up to the question I asked in SmartSuite. I could also calculate according to my form and using a formula the total score of the answers of a person who fills out my form. Isn't it easier that way? What is the difference between one platform and the other? So I think she's asking what's the difference between calculating the score within SmartSuite versus calculating the score on Fillout.
Yeah, so it depends what you want to do. If you want to use the score within the form, then doing it within Fillout is pretty much the only way to go. Because let's say that you want to, a common use case we see, for instance, is wanting to show different ending pages depending on the score that someone calculates. Let's say you want to make a form and you have a number of different products and you want to suggest the right product for the person that's filling out the form, depending on the inputs that they provide. And so if you make a calculation inside of Fillout, that calculation will be calculated on the fly, and then you can use it within conditional logic and route people to a certain page depending on the value of that score. If you only need the score afterwards, like if it's just something that you want to use in an automation or something later on, then doing it in SmartSuite is also a great way to go. So you can have it calculated there. It'll also update automatically, but that'll be after the form is submitted, not during the form submission.
Amazing. And of course, Akira is asking, is Fillout FedRAMP compliant?
Fillout is not currently FedRAMP compliant.
Okay, sounds good. If you want FedRAMP compliant, talk to Dominic. And if the opportunity is right, I'm sure he can get working on that. The next question is coming in from Jeffrey. He's asking if we have WeWeb or Webflow integration, or WeWork. I'm assuming he meant WeWeb or Webflow integrations, or do we still need to use the embed?
You have to use the embed, but we see a lot of people do that. The embed, pretty much every solution that every like website builder or portal builder will let you embed an iframe into the solution. And so we see a lot of people do that. And our embeds also resize automatically. So if the form gets longer based on some like conditional logic, most portal solutions will allow the iframe to resize automatically. Yeah, it feels native when you're using it.
Okay, amazing. And David is asking, can I use a form to add numbers to total that is already present in a record in SmartSuite? I think David, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're probably asking if you can update a record.
Yeah, that's basically it. We just have numbers that are just totals, but I understand they can do that they can update the data in the records and have them in there. One question right there. And also, is there a way when they complete it, can we make it like PDF that attaches to the record when they do it?
Yeah, good question. On the update side of things, let me just show that really quickly. So I showed the kind of end experience before for the updates, but I didn't show how you actually set that up. So in your form, you go to the integrations tab and you click on SmartSuite. By default, the connection will be set up to create a new record, but you would just click over here to update record. And Fillout gives you this formula. So this is a SmartSuite formula that you can bring into your SmartSuite solution. And so then this will automatically generate that unique link for every record. Down here, this is where what you said might be relevant. So you can configure the mappings. And so you could add a new mapping. Let's say you want to update the description to be equivalent to a calculation that you set up. This doesn't really make sense here, but let's say I wanted to, I don't know if I have a price one here, but basically you would set up the mapping over here that you want to update, and then that'll update to the mapping that you create here. For the PDF piece, that we don't have a native PDF generator inside of Fillout yet, but what we see people do often is use either we have a webhook integration over here, or you could set up a SmartSuite automation to create the PDF after the form is submitted. So we often see people use solutions like Document, and there are a few different like PDF generator solutions which work well with arbitrary webhooks.
Amazing. Okay, Akira is asking what programming language is used for Fillout?
Yeah, I assume you mean how Fillout is built itself. Fillout is built On the front end, using React, which is like a JavaScript framework for building front-end applications. And then we use a lot of JavaScript throughout. So we use Node.js on the back end. But luckily, if you're using Fillout, you don't need to know how to code. So you don't have to actually code within the product, but we do have a custom code feature in case you do want to code. And so you can add like JavaScript snippets inside of it.
That's awesome. And Tara's asking, are CSS changes possible to manage the look and feel of the form to reflect a specific brand?
Yeah, we don't allow it on the like cloud plans currently. We do allow it on the enterprise plan, but most things in Fillout you can configure using like the theme editor that I showed, which allows you to change the font, change the size of the form, etc. But we don't allow arbitrary CSS currently on the cloud plans.
Okay, and Jeff is asking, I'd like to use one contact us form embedded in various locations and pages around my website, but know what URL page location the user submitted the form from. Can Fillout do this?
Yeah, that's a great question. The way to do that is to use the URL parameter feature. So if you go to URL parameters over here, and then you can add a new URL parameter. So you could call it like source or whatever you want to call it, and then add the parameter here. And then now when you send the link out to people, let's change this back to a just regular create form. When you send people the link, or when you post it on your site, you might want to put source equals page 1 or something like that. And this source parameter, so page 1, will now be available within the form for using it however you want to use it. Most commonly, you probably want to save it to SmartSuite. So you can go to the integration tab over here, and you could choose, let's just store it in like website for now. You can choose URL parameters over here and then select the source URL parameter that I created. And then now we have this mapping. So we're going to map the SmartSuite website field to the URL parameter that's passed in. And so whenever someone submits the form, it'll automatically save the source that was passed into the URL to your SmartSuite solution.
Super cool. Akira is asking, how does Fillout accommodate CCPA/GDPR privacy data collection regulations?
Yeah, that's a good question. On the GDPR front, we have an option where you can basically geolocate the server. So you can use a server that's based in the EU. And so then when somebody submits the form, the data that they submit will go directly from their browser to a Fillout server in the EU. And then if you connect it to something like SmartSuite, then it'll go on to SmartSuite after that. But the Fillout portion, at least, is all managed within the EU. And then we're also happy to sign like a DPA data privacy agreement as well as it relates to GDPR.
Amazing. We have another question coming in. Do I get notifications when all the responses every time a respondent submits a form?
Yeah, it depends where you want to get notified, but we have built-in integrations with Slack, for example, or Microsoft Teams. I don't have it connected on this account, but basically you can connect to Slack, and then you can either create a custom message that you want to send. So let's say you want to only include certain fields, certain information, you can do that, or you can just have it send all the fields in a nicely formatted message inside of Slack or whatever if you want to use email or whichever tool you want to get notifications in.
Amazing. And last question we have over here from Stan. Would there be a payment integration in the future? Would it be a game changer if this is possible?
Yeah, we have a payment integration today. So if you go to the Fillout form editor and you press add page, before we've mainly been showing the kind of form pages so far, but if you click on payment, this will load up a Stripe payment integration. So let me just change the theme up a little bit here. And the way it works is pretty simple. So you just connect to Stripe. Once you authenticate it with your Stripe account, then this will collect the payment information from the user who's filling out the form. And you can put a fixed price, or you can even have a dynamic price. So before I was showing the calculations, you could reference a calculation here instead. So I could say, I want to reference the price from a calculation. And so then the amount that they'll get charged will be dynamic depending on the input in the form. And yeah, you can even have multiple different payment pages within your form. So if you want to use this page logic feature to only have some people pay, like you might have a question that says, are you ready to pay right now? Then you would route them to the payment page, otherwise route them to the ending page. So there's a lot of possibilities there. And then we are actively working on kind of more payment gateway integrations as well. So like PayPal and other payment integrations as well.
Super cool. Last question coming in from Catherine. Actually, a few more questions just popped in. Let's see if we can get to them quickly. Catherine is asking, could you show me how to connect Fillout with SmartSuite? It's still not clear to me. The issue here is that I already created some formats in Fillout, but I haven't connected Fillout with my SmartSuite yet.
Yeah, definitely. Let me walk through that. So the easiest way is to go to, so you can go to fillout.com, choose a SmartSuite from the dropdown, and then you just press get started. And so this will take you straight into a flow to create a SmartSuite form. You can choose theme, press next, and then I'd already connected my SmartSuite account beforehand. So in that case, you just choose the connection and then press next, and then choose the solution, choose the app that you want to connect to, and then press create form. If you have not yet connected SmartSuite, you'll be taken to this page instead, where you basically need to provide your SmartSuite API key and workspace ID. And SmartSuite has some great documentation here for how to do that, but it just takes 30 seconds or so to connect, and then you should be good to go.
Okay, amazing. And last question from Greg. Can you, a customer, order from with Fillout, have the possibility to choose multi-products with different quantities?
Yeah, so it depends a little bit on the specifics, but you can do, in general, let's go into one of these forms. I'll make a new page just to keep things simple. There's a bunch of different ways you might want to display that. So let's say you have like images for each of your products. You could set up this image picker to have images of each, have people choose the product. Then you could have a number input, for instance, to ask like how many of that particular item do they want to order. You can also, I didn't really touch on this in the demo, but if you want people to fill out the form multiple times, that's something that you can do as well. So you can add a button which will automatically bring people back to the start. So you can call this order another item, and then that'll allow them to complete the form multiple times. And yeah, it depends a little bit on the specifics, but that's one way I would advise doing that.
Okay, amazing. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, Dominic, for hosting this great webinar. Looking forward to hopefully have a next one with you.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, Ali.
Thank you.